Hi, this is Sue Jackson of the Book by Book blog and also the Live with MECFS blog. And I'm here today with part 3 of my answers to your questions. Part 3 is about chronic illness. So I started this as a celebration for the milestone of hitting 1,000 subscribers, which was back in May. It took me a while to get to this. It's been a rough summer. But you had so many great questions that I divided them up into 3 parts. So part 1 you can go check out. That was general questions. That covered things like whatever you asked me about my favorite beverages, about my favorite interests and hobbies, about the outdoors and travel and some of my favorite places, about where I've lived. You had some great questions, so check out part 1. Part 2 was all about books and reading, so if you enjoyed that, check that out. And part 3 now is about chronic illness. And since my channel covers all of these topics, I thought I would cover all of them in my Q&A. So question 1 comes from Debbie, a frequent commenter on my channel. She said, did you struggle to get your MECFS diagnosis? So the answer to this is yes, but it's very relative. Many people with MECFS struggle for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years or more before being accurately diagnosed. From that perspective, I think I'm lucky. It took me 1 year, almost to the day. I got sick on March 2nd, 2002. My life that year was completely changed. It was devastating. I was extremely sick, though I had some good days mixed in, which made it all the more confusing. I saw dozens of doctors, had hundreds of blood tests run, and one doctor after another said, I have no idea what's wrong with you, or words to that effect. A few were a little more helpful than that. Some were extremely dismissive. As anyone with a mystery illness knows, searching for a diagnosis can be very, very difficult. I was extremely lucky because after all those specialists and blood tests and no answers, I was doing really poorly, but my husband and I had decided we needed a new primary care physician. That's one thing chronic illness showed me. Our old doctor was in a big group of like a dozen different doctors, and you could never get an appointment with the same person twice. And, trying to follow up on something long-term, it wasn't ideal. So just by chance, there was a doctor literally less than a 5-minute drive from our house, just a few miles away, right here in our town. She was covered by our insurance. When we called, they said she was taking new patients. I really wanted a female doctor. I had found in my year that they tended to listen more and be more willing to help. Generally, obviously that's not true across the board. We had an amazing physician in New Orleans who was a man, but just generally, given what I was going through, I wanted a female doctor. I went for my first visit. I brought in my 3-ring binder filled with lab results, graphs of how I felt every day, showing these mysterious ups and downs that had me completely flummoxed. I had no idea why that was happening. And she listened to my story. She looked at my information and she said, I think I know what's wrong. She said, I think you have an immune disorder that's called chronic fatigue syndrome. She said, I have several other patients who have it and I recognize it. And she said, I could run some more tests. I could send you for a muscle biopsy. Do you want me to do that? And I was like, chronic fatigue syndrome? That sounds like something, a doctor says just to get rid of you. A wastebasket diagnosis. I was like, yeah, more tests. And of course, those more tests didn't show anything either. But since she had brought it up, I looked it up online. I found the CDC's website. It was the first thing I had seen in a year of searching that perfectly fit my symptoms, including these crazy ups and downs that seemed random. So, yeah, so she did know from that first visit. She was the one who accurately diagnosed me. She's been my doctor for the last 22 years now, and I'm so grateful to her. So it was a struggle, but not as much as other people, I'm well aware. Question 2 comes from Michael Romeo, who also has a BookTube channel. How does your chronic illness affect posting to and maintaining your channel? So I try to maintain a routine of recording and editing and posting 2 videos a week, usually on Tuesday and on Thursday night for Friday reads. So Friday is usually a Friday reads video. Occasionally it's something else depending on the season. Like at the start of Big Book Summer, instead I did my Big Book Summer kickoff. The Tuesday video is sometimes book related, like a tag video, sometimes chronic illness related. If we're traveling, then I do vlogs, camping travel vlogs, which I really enjoy. So, Michael, I try to stick to that. If I'm really badly crashed or relapsed, then like on the couch, can't get up, can't sit up, then I will try to fill in the gaps, and I will probably miss some weeks, like what happened this summer when I got COVID. For about 3 weeks, I was just flat. I tried to fill in the gaps with a few 1-minute shorts, done while lying down, so that was interesting. Something I'm used to, though, because I also do chronic illness vlogs. And that's the other thing. If I'm really feeling poorly, I might be able to manage sitting up to do a 10-minute Friday reads, though I would have to lie down and rest before and after. When it comes to my chronic illness videos, they tend to take a lot more energy, ironically, because I very often do informative videos. And so I have to pull all the information together. It's usually information I've published on my blog, but I have to prepare it to present. Sometimes I prepare like slides that I put up. I'll record next to a blank wall and put information up next to me. So it takes more energy. So when I'm feeling poorly, I won't do as many of those. I haven't done one in months now because of COVID this summer. Instead, I will do chronic illness vlogs where for a week I just record myself doing whatever I am doing. It's like a week in the life, a glimpse into my real life with chronic illness, the ups and the downs. Question 3, how do you manage to stay thin with a chronic illness? I find when I am down and out, the last thing I want to do is exercise. And this question came from Lily of Lilybug's Library. So this is an excellent question, Lily. First off, I'm extremely limited in how much I can exercise. The key characteristic of MECFS is an intolerance to exertion, even mild exertion. So when I'm at my worst, as I was part of this summer with COVID, then I can't even take walks. A slow 5-minute or walk out to my mailbox and back, or really, really, really slow, like barely moving. 10 minutes around the cul-de-sac that's in front of our house would be like all I can manage. And then back to the couch to lie down some more. So I can't rely on exercise. When I'm at my best, with all my treatments working well and nothing like COVID getting in the way, Then I can manage some walks, like 20 to 30 minutes. When we're camping and on vacation, I can walk a little bit more because I have no other responsibilities. I have nothing to do all day but rest, lie in my lounge chair, lie on my bed in the camper, read books, very, very chill. And in that case, I can sometimes tolerate like a longer hike. But again, I can't do big hills. It has to be pretty flat. My maximum is usually 1 mile, sometimes 1.5 miles if I'm doing really, really well. Yeah, and it's been that way for 22 years. So I can't rely on exercise. You can probably tell, I'm very small boned to begin with. I am naturally, very narrow shoulders and hips. I'm pretty small. I'm only 5'1". So I'm small to begin with, but over the last 22 years with MECFS, I had slowly gained weight every year, a few pounds. And my diet, because of my illness, had been getting stricter and stricter. And almost every year at my annual physical, I told my doctor, I don't understand why I keep gaining weight, why I can't lose weight. I've removed all sugar from my diet. I can't have dairy. I've removed all grains from my diet. Why am I not losing weight? And I finally got the answer last year. It turned out that my thyroid was really messed up. Now, thyroid dysfunction is very often a part of MECFS. It definitely causes disruption of the entire endocrine system. Lots and lots of people with MECFS and related illnesses like long COVID, fibro, and other things have trouble with their thyroid. For years and years, though, I had gotten lab tests back saying, oh, your thyroid's fine, it's normal. A few years ago, my Lyme specialist ran a more detailed thyroid panel. I've got a video where I talk about it, so I'll share that in the comments down below, in the notes down below. And that showed I had low T3. So she started me on a low dose of a thyroid medication. I don't think that did much. And maybe a year later, we increased the dose of that, but it was still really tiny. But the end of 2022, I was in really bad shape. And I asked my primary care physician for a full thyroid panel, including T3 and T4. And both of those were bottomed out. So it is possible, and happens very often, that the doctor might only check TSH, that looks normal, but T3 and T4 are really low. So I didn't mean to get into the details, but that began a year-long mission with my doctor and I to normalize my thyroid function. Every 2 months, I went and got the thyroid panel done at the lab. We'd look at the results. She would make a change to my medication based on those results. I discovered Armour thyroid, which is its desiccated pig thyroid gland, which sounds really gross. And actually, if it starts to melt in your mouth, it tastes really gross. But it's extremely effective because it's a real thyroid gland. So as she upped the dose of that throughout last year, the weight just fell off of me. It was amazing. Like I said, I had tried for so many years. So that was the solution, just normalizing my thyroid. I also added iodine, which helped a lot too. And by the end, throughout last year, during the year, I made no changes to diet, no changes to exercise, because again, I can't do much. And actually the last 3 months of last year, I was pretty sick, so I couldn't even do my usual walks. And I lost almost 20 pounds, 100% from adjusting my thyroid medication and normalizing thyroid function. So anyone with a chronic illness should look into that because it has a huge impact, not just on weight loss, but on how you feel, your energy. Yeah, it's really important. So that's how I lost 20 pounds last year. The end of last year, right at the end, like Christmas time, and really January 1st, my diet had to get even stricter. And again, this wasn't for weight loss reasons, it was for chronic illness reasons. With my immune dysfunction, I have trouble with yeast overgrowth. I get thrush in my mouth. It's common in people who have MECFS, as well as people with immune deficiencies like AIDS. It's also common in people who take long-term steroids because steroids suppress the immune system. So anyway, I had already done everything to try to treat the yeast overgrowth. And one of my doctors said, you have to completely eliminate carbs from your diet for at least 3 months. So I did that. So I ate a carnivore diet for the first 3 months of the year. Now I'm more keto, which is still very low carb. Because if I have any more carbs than this, then the thrush comes back. And it's not just in my mouth. It affects my whole body. It affects energy. I get flu-like aches. It's really, really important. So with the diet, I have lost another like 5 pounds. My husband started the keto diet in January. I was shocked that he decided to go along with me, but he did. He has lost 20 pounds just from the diet. He's actually exercising less than he used to, trying to get him back into it. And 20 pounds just fell off. His pants were literally falling off if he didn't put a belt on. So a keto carnivore diet. I do have a diet video that just needs editing that I hope to get up next month. A keto carnivore diet, the idea is that with fewer carbs available, your body is burning fat instead of carbs. And it's known to contribute to weight loss. Also, I just had my lipids panel done. And for the first time in many, many, many years, my triglycerides and my cholesterol are down in the good range. They were borderline high. So I can't wait to show my doctor that. It was a specialist that ordered the test. So very excited about that. So I'm sorry the answer was so long, Lily, but it was a good question and a difficult one to answer briefly. And finally, question 4 from Michelle. I'm curious how you contracted Lyme disease. What were your first symptoms? Another great question, Michelle. So yes, I have Lyme disease as well as this immune disorder. So as I said earlier, I got MECFS March 2nd, 2002. About 80% of us who have MECFS can tell you the exact date because it's usually triggered by some sort of infection and you're perfectly healthy and then you're not. It's just the way it happens. And so I had found that great doctor. She had some treatments for me. I was doing a little better. And then in August 2008, I had some new symptoms start. I had a sudden onset of knee pain and nausea. 2 very, very common symptoms of Lyme disease. Lyme disease does cause joint pain, not necessarily your knees. It can even be joint pain that migrates around your body. A friend of mine had shoulder pain and neck pain back when our kids were young, and that turned out to be Lyme. For some people, it's like, one day your elbows hurt, the next day your hips hurt. It can migrate around your body. And don't forget that your spine is a joint, it's many joints as well. So it can be anywhere in your body. When mine gets really bad, I can feel it in my hips as well. And a lot of people don't know this, but the nausea is very common in Lyme disease as well. And all of my MECFS symptoms got worse. So, unfortunately, because of my immune disorder, I don't create the antibodies for Lyme. I also don't create many antibodies for COVID, which is a big problem. So I had the test done. My doctor ran the screening test, but they're antibody tests, and they came back negative. Our area is usually like number 2 in per capita Lyme cases every year. So I knew there was a lot of it here. We spend a lot of time outdoors. If you watched part 1 of my Q&A videos, you know that we love camping and outdoor stuff. So, it was highly likely. So based on my symptoms, and my doctor did a very thorough exam of my knees, and she could feel that they were swollen, which is what Lyme disease does. So I would say she wasn't 100% convinced, but she could see enough symptoms in me that she agreed to try treating me. The tests, it's not just people like me who don't make antibodies. Lyme tests only catch about 60% of Lyme cases. They are not infallible. They have a very high false negative percentage. So quite often, the thing that proves that you do have Lyme is treating it and seeing that your symptoms go away. And that's what happened with me. My doctor started treating me with doxycycline, the antibiotic that's commonly used for Lyme, very effective against Lyme. The knee pain cleared up, the nausea cleared up. Unfortunately, every time I tried to go off of it, the symptoms came back. So when we got to about the 6-month mark, my doctor said, and she had been great up, through all of that, but she said, okay, we're getting out of my comfort zone. This is a long time to be on antibiotics. At this point, you need to see a Lyme specialist. Believe it or not, with all those cases of Lyme in our state, there's not a single Lyme specialist here in Delaware. I traveled to New Jersey to see the one my son had been seeing. He got Lyme disease for the first time in 2003, and then again in 2005. Actually, the second time was spring of 2006. And he also had MECFS as well. So I went to see my son's Lyme specialist, and he took over my treatment from there. Now I see one who's a little closer to home. She's in Pennsylvania. We're really close to the PA border. Delaware's a really tiny state. So I'm still being treated for Lyme disease. Years and years and years ago, this has probably contributed to my problems with yeast overgrowth. I took a lot of antibiotics for about 3 years straight. So did my son. We both had all kinds of problems from that. So we switched a long time ago to all herbal protocols. And I was surprised to find them very, very, very effective. And now research bears that out. That, that some herbals are more effective in the lab at eradicating Lyme disease than doxycycline is. So, and luckily they're much gentler on the system and don't cause the same problems. So that's my Lyme history in a nutshell. You asked how I contracted it. I have no idea. But we do spend a lot of time outdoors. Like many people with tick infections, and there are more than just Lyme disease. My son has 3. Like many people with tick infections, I didn't know I'd been bitten by a tick. And like 50% of those with tick infections, I did not get a rash. This is a huge misconception. Another friend of mine she's had Lyme 3 times. She's been able to get rid of it because her immune system's fine, but each time she got a rash, so she knew. No rash, neither with me or my son, and not with 50% of those who have it. So so the tests aren't very good. You can't rely on the rash. If you do have the rash, then you definitely do have Lyme. So it's mostly diagnosed by symptoms. I could have gotten it on one of our camping trips or pulling some weeds in my yard. I mean, it's all over. So that was a great question, Michelle. Thank you. I'm sorry for talking so long. Thanks for hanging on till the end. I hope you found my answers helpful if that's what you were looking for, or informative if you just wanted to know more about me and my illness journey. And thank you for watching my channel. You can let me know in the comments down below if you have chronic illness issues and what your experience has been like.